Feels good to be back. What's going on, everybody? Happy Thanksgiving Eve. It's been a minute. So many things going on right now with my life, the businesses, all positives, if I'm being honest, but it's been stealing all my time. I really love doing these shows, and I love being on other people's shows, and I just have a great time with conversations. Yeah, my time has been completely stolen from me lately. So I had an opportunity today to hop on before Thanksgiving tomorrow, and I am taking this opportunity. And one of the reasons that inspired me, sometimes I'm lacking inspiration, but today I was programming for outwards of January, trying to get out ahead for the Jump Ship 90, and I decided to program 13.2, the old open wad, build that in as the Metcon for the day. For those of you who don't remember 13.2, it's just a 10-minute AMRAP of 5 shoulder overhead, 10 deadlifts, and 15 box jumps. But that got me thinking about one of the first major controversies ever in the sport of CrossFit. It was a big deal. I don't know how many of you guys were around in 2013 for the Open, but we just started getting momentum with it. It was the third year of the Open doing it. And, people were starting to sign up more often, take it more serious. The grumblings of the cheaters and how are we going to keep track of who's doing it legitimately and not, we're starting to grow as the third year of the sport came around. And so we had our first big controversy, which I'll get into in a minute. What's up, Steven? Seth looks like 2003 Chad Kroger from Nickelback. That is the number one comment I get on here. In fact, on some of the shows that I go on, they just either write my name as Nickelback or Chad Kroger. So I take it as a compliment at this point. At first, I was like, man, everyone's picking on me. But now it's like my badge of honor. What's up, Augustus? Corey, how are you? Kenneth, it's happening. Okay, so let's get into this a little bit. And the reason I want to talk about this on top of it just popping in my head is because it seems like with the new season format, there's going to be a lot of opportunities to watch people's videos online, which is going to be very interesting. Renata, how are you? Okay, so first of all, if you're not familiar with Josh Golden and the 13.2 controversy, we'll get there in a second. But first, we'll watch a little bit of what 13.2 is. I'm going to pull it up here. We'll stream it together. Give me 1 second to make sure I have the right one. And I don't. How do you like that? Okay, now I do. All right, so here's the workout.
For this 10-minute AMRAP, your score will be the total number of repetitions that you complete. Each round, we'll see 5 shoulder to overhead, 10
How many of you guys did this?
And 15 box jumps. Each repetition.
Halpin just wrote about the Golden and CrossFit Grover Beach thing. I didn't read what you wrote, Halpin, but I'm quite familiar with this debacle as well. And it's very relevant for what's happening in the future. So I'm showing this just as a point because the standards are crystal clear, right? Even in 2013, we all know exactly what's to be expected.
Once that position is achieved, the athlete
and the media team is
jump down from the box for the next
highlighting it as clear as they can make it for 3 pretty simple movements.
Hey guys, how about let's hear it for the
all right, we're going to watch a little bit of Annie Thorsdottir and Lindsey Valenzuela hit this workout to get to the goods.
Julie was kind enough to come out to Santa Cruz, set the standard for all of us, and also...
All right, so off we go. It's a super fast-paced workout.
Overhead, not a heavy weight for these girls. They will go right into the deadlift, 10 deadlifts with that 75
and you can see, they are emphasizing that hip opening. I mean, a couple of Annie's actually earlier were a little sketchy, but they're on top of it.
As they move to the box jump in terms of their reps.
So the jump, land, stand, standard in full effect with the hip fully open on the box. Even moving this fast, you can see just in this first set, there's already a couple sketchy reps. They're not perfect. Lindsay's doing a better job than Annie was early on, but there's still some room for interpretation there of what that full open hip is.
first one through round one. Quick into the shoulder.
And you saw Lindsay in that first round. She was actually jumping off the box in her first rep because that's what we used to do. We used to jump and open the hip in the air.
The pace that was set by Julie Fouché earlier was 1 minute, so you can see what it does to
Corey, I was playing soccer at a pretty high level in adult rec leagues in 2013. Yeah, I thought I was a fit CrossFitter, but I was never actually fit in 2013. But I didn't play adult rec league anything. Oh, look, rebounding and no torn Achilles. Yeah. I saw the Coffee Pods and Wads show last week, I think it was, where this was one of the questions. I do think that athletes should be able to rebound 20/24 inches. I don't see a problem with having it as a part of the sport. I get when you have mass participation in the open, you're asking for problems, but it's still not as frequent as people make it seem from what I have seen. I'm going to turn down the volume on this a little bit. Okay. So remember, this is only a 10-minute workout. They're flying. I think Annie's score was around 12 rounds or something, maybe even a little more. So they're doing better than Imam on this workout. And I think even the men's and women's scores were actually really similar on this, even given the different weights and slightly different range of motion. The men and women were very close at the top at this workout. Larry Young. I'm too damn old for rebounding. Yeah, that's okay. So you, as being a too damn old type of guy, I'm also a little old. I do a little rebounding, but not much. And the Masters division, maybe in Masters, they do make it a step down mandatory for Masters, or, maybe most Masters are just going to step down because it makes more sense to pace it that way. I just don't think calling for a flat out ban on rebounding makes sense in a sport as dynamic as CrossFit. Yeah, safety is important to an extent, but it's still sport. I mean, how many of these injuries do you see in other sports all the time? It's part of playing. Never too old. Yeah, Kenneth, I agree. Actually, I mean, some rebounding is always going to be valuable. I mean, in a double under, you do a little rebounding. You can rebound to a smaller target. But yeah, you don't want to lose it, right? You don't want to lose it. Once you stop doing certain movements and you give it up completely, you're not getting it back, and then you're letting age win out. All right, we won't watch this whole thing, but I just wanted to kind of highlight the speed of this style of workout. And I don't think this is even a poorly programmed workout by CrossFit either. I like the demand, the intensity needed on this workout. I think it's cool. I think these days people worry about the judging standards, as they should, but maybe a bit too much, and they make the workouts, they take some of the intensity out of the workouts to make sure that the reps look super clean, or they're easier to judge to avoid big controversies. Again, I think there is some validity in that, but I like this workout because it really is an all-out race from start to finish. Megan Scales, rebounding is also way easier in my opinion. Yeah, I think it is too. I definitely think it is easier. And you see some athletes who are just super springy that can fall off the top of the box and spring right back up and make it look effortless. And then some don't really either have the coordination for it, or they don't have kind of the dynamic, the fast twitch muscle, whatever you want to call it, and they're not as good at it. And I think that should, having that springiness should be rewarded in some aspects of a sport like this. So yeah, for someone like you who's good at them, like, you should sort of be rewarded for having that ability. All right, we'll watch for one more minute, and then we'll move on from this. You guys get the gist. How many of you guys in the comments have done this one? Anybody taking this on? This feels like a lifetime ago that I did this. I think I did this twice that year in the Open. And 115 was like, I say was, probably still is challenging for me now, but was like pretty challenging for me back then to make the bar look the way they make it look. All right. You guys get the idea in the workout. It's fast paced. Again, I think they were getting between 11, 12 rounds, maybe even a little more than that. Annie might have been 12 plus on this. I don't actually remember. Top scores in the world were just shy of 13 rounds in 10 minutes. So it was super, super fast paced. We'll go ahead and drop this for now. So this workout gets announced. And gyms all over the world are getting ready to do it. It's the second week of the third open ever, and you can already see how a workout like this, especially in a sport, in an online variation of a sport in its complete infancy, could create judging and standard problems. And I can't remember how or when this came out, was leaked. I saw the video before he was disqualified. This thing got spread around like crazy, even before this is really before social media is even a big thing in 2013. It's just, there's just not the same sharing aspect, but this video got around for sure. Probably ended up in my email. Let me pull it up so we can watch the Josh Golden 13.2 performance. All right, so we'll just play from the start. I mean, it's already so tough to watch old grainy shit videos, but you'll get the point here in a second. If 2013 was CrossFit's infancy as a sport, is it an angry teen now? Yeah, I would say that's a good way to put it. So he snatches the first rep, strict presses, which is not against the rules to strict press. Let's see if I won't be able to make that any bigger. I hope you guys can see that a little bit. Very sketchy extension of both the legs and the hips. And pretty much 0 box jumps are going to count here. And now he's going fast, obviously, right? And if you ask me if he's getting a good workout out of this, I'd say, hell yeah, that's a hell of a workout. If you can keep that pace up for 10 minutes, that's a crazy high-intensity workout. But yeah, not following the standards, clearly. So we'll watch a couple minutes of this just for fun so you can see kind of what this looked like, what caused the biggest outrage. Because I can guarantee you he was not the only person that had videos like this. I promise you, he got singled out, and kind of for good reason, but he was not alone in this. Travis says his deadlifts look good. It's actually, I would say it's kind of hard to see at time, unless you're being sarcastic, which maybe you are. But it's hard to see if he's got soft knees a little bit. And with his shorts, you can't really tell if he's opening his hip all the way. Again, the video's not high quality. They might be, yeah, some of them are okay. Some of them are better than others. But yeah, they're not the worst part, that's for sure. Yeah, the box jumps are a 0, obviously. But I think that deadlift standard is part of the reason why we don't usually see the super light deadlifts anymore, because of this. And there's an old Josh Bridges controversy where I think even at 225, he was moving the bar fast. And from the angle they presented, Josh Bridges was not standing up from the way it looked. And that got argued for a while. And then CJ from Invictus put out a statement about it. And that was a couple years after this. There was another deadlift controversy. Maybe I'll do another show on that one. Those are better than Andy's. If you're talking the deadlifts, yeah, I think I would agree. Andy's deadlifts were not good in those few rounds we watched, but she was getting away with it. It's amazing that this video is still on YouTube. I didn't have to download this or anything. It's on Josh Golden's YouTube channel. I kind of props to him for keeping it up, to be honest, because when this went crazy, everybody today would have pulled that shit down immediately. Larry says light deadlifts might as well be toe touches. At a certain point, you're not wrong. It might even be easier to lift a little bit of weight than just to bend over. It kind of helps you. I hope he monetized it. I don't even know how many views it has. Let's see. 81,000 views. Yeah. That's funny. Well, I'm on premium, so I didn't see an ad, but who knows? Maybe he did. Maybe that's the most genius move. Maybe that's what you do. You just intentionally put out shit videos so everyone comes and watches and judges you on it, and you make them watch an ad the whole time. Make money. All right. We're not going to go through this whole thing, but We'll give you one more round as he's starting to get tired here. Let's see if it gets any better. I certainly don't have this video memorized. The strict press is such a interesting strategy to save the legs. Yeah, that's a better angle in the deadlifts. Those actually look pretty good for the most part. Yeah, I guess I don't really have problems with those. That's pretty funny. Okay, we'll count it. Keep going. All right, so you get the point. You get the point. That was the submission video that Josh Golden had. And he was in contention. I'll pull up the leaderboard here. He was in contention for a while. Like he wasn't a bad athlete. Let's see if I can find. I think he was in California. Well, he's not going to be on here because he would have got wiped off the leaderboard. I don't even know why I pulled this up. That's not going to be helpful. But you can see at least the high score. So let's see. High scores for men in 2013. Patrick Gallagher finished 1,762nd with a first place of 387. Maybe. To be 11 reps better than second and finish in 1,700th, he better have some crazy advantage. I don't know what that would be. Dan Bailey takes fourth. Dakota Rager takes fourth, ties Dan Bailey. Dakota with 1,400. We know, if you don't know Dakota, he is legit. Dakota is, he was out in Hawaii for a while, actually. He's an individual games athlete and on games teams multiple years. So that doesn't surprise me. Dan Tyminski was a Northeast fire breather. Probably made it to the games 5 years, maybe more. And then you got Froning, Miko, Mitch Bernard. Yeah, so a bunch of big names. So the scores are legit through there, but yeah. All right, we'll keep going here. So CrossFit gets wind of this video. I don't know who sends it to them. Someone does. And they put out this. They put this statement out there. Golden workout rejected. It's a quick little article. Josh Golden of CrossFit Grover Beach posted, can't speak, 387 reps on 13.2. That score put him in a three-way tie for first worldwide. So you notice when I showed you the leaderboard, there's only one person in the world with that score. So somebody else got their score adjusted as well. Later on Sunday evening, a YouTube video of his performance started to circulate on social media. In the video, Golden clearly failed to meet the movement standard as outlined on the CrossFit Games site. And I showed you the video, the demo video. I showed you the open announcement. They made it really clear, even though in some cases they weren't necessarily following it to a T either, but he was egregiously not meeting the standard. This morning, the general manager of the CrossFit Games, Justin Berg, contacted Golden to notify him that his performance would be rejected. Ben Green, the affiliate owner of CrossFit Grover Beach, responded on behalf of Golden and presented an earlier video of 13.2 in which Golden supposedly reported 380 reps. In both videos, the movement standard for the box jump and shoulder overhead lifts were not met. Larry, with the changes this year, do you think we'll have to see, or with the changes, do you think we'll have to see something heavy this year? Heavier. So I thought last year, the 185 deadlift made a lot of sense. It wasn't really a deterring factor for better athletes, the 185, 125, or 135, whatever it was for women. It wasn't really challenging for them. Those kind of in the middle of the road would probably have to break that at some point. And those who would struggle because it's heavy for some people. So I thought it was something in that range is probably a better idea. And you'll have different kind of thresholds on different movements that you'd want to see to make sure they're meeting standards. So yeah, I think choosing a good weight helps with this whole process. So back to the article. In the open, the athlete is responsible for performing the workout as prescribed and meeting all movement standards. The judge and affiliate manager are responsible for validating that performance. In this case, all three parties failed to fulfill their responsibilities. The consequences for both the athlete and affiliate are severe. So this is where people started shaking in their boots a little bit for at least this season. Josh Golden will not have a valid score on 13.2 and thus will be out of contention as an individual at the 2013 Southern California Regional. So he was disqualified. His season's over. CrossFit Grover Beach will not be permitted to validate workouts for the remainder of the 2013 CrossFit Games season, and their athletes and team may remain in the competition, but will need to perform the remainder of the open workouts at a different affiliate or submit a video. I thought that was crazy. James, what's up? Happy Thanksgiving. That was the shit that, like, when me and my partners back in my Misfit days saw that, we were like, I mean, we were already pretty strict and on people, and I made several people cry with judging and stuff back in the day. I was very on top of it, but I was like, damn, now we have to make sure that other affiliate members who we're allowing to judge others aren't judging somebody who has a decent score, and even if they're not really in major contention for anything, they're they want to compete, so they put their video on YouTube. That YouTube video gets to HQ, and even if they put up a 250 instead of a 380, and we're just allowing shit reps to be validated, they come and they pull our ability to do this. Like, we were panicked. Not that we thought it was going to happen necessarily, but we were making sure, doubling down on our judges, our coaches. If we had a better athlete, we put a better, more competent judge on them. So in response to this, it woke us all up in the sense that, like, okay, we were taking it serious, but like, wow, if we make a mistake or we let something slip through the cracks, we will get our season and all our athletes' seasons completely ruined. So we were like, no one was playing around. And I assume many other gyms felt the same way. CrossFit takes the competition and movement standards very seriously. Boy, if Hiller was on this with me, he would have a lot to say about that over the last decade. Everyone competing, especially those aspiring to regionals or beyond, must ensure their performances meet or exceed all established standards. So that was the release they put out on this video. And like I said earlier, realistically, Josh was the scapegoat. He was the best athlete to have a horrible performance not meeting the standard. So he got the brunt of this. If you looked around at enough places, you would have found many, and I'm not even talking dozens, I'm talking hundreds of athletes that are have reasonable capacity that had a similar video like that, for sure. There's no doubt in my mind back then this was happening all over the place. James O'Rourke, they showed the capacity. Yeah. Boy, I do have some other things I need to bring up. The Brooke Wells handstand push-up capacity, that was an interesting one too, right? And then I talked about the Josh Bridges deadlift controversy earlier. I'll have to bring those up. Maybe I'll do that early next week. Go into some of those things. But anyway, all right. So Josh is disqualified for the season. The affiliate is no longer allowed to host open workouts. That's that. The following year, this video comes out. Kind of interesting. 2014 season, back when they had the CrossFit Games update show.
Hi everybody, Sean Woodland and Pat Sherwood talking about Josh Golden, and this was an athlete who showed up on our radar last year at the Open, but for the wrong reasons. In 13.2, he put up a great score, but then when the video of his performance was reviewed, it was deemed that he did not meet the movement standards, and as a result, he was disqualified for the rest of the season.
And now in 2014, the Open's a few years old, had some lessons learned, and one of the new policies is if you're an athlete that makes it to regionals, qualifies for regionals, you better have videotaped every one of your Open performances because any one of them could be asked for submission.
Well,
So yeah, that's interesting. That rule was always really loose. It was kind of assumed, but this was, I'm kind of speaking from experience at this point. This is 2014. My last company, as far as working with competitors, was at its biggest point probably from, at least while I was there, between 2013 to 2017, maybe 18. And so we were really in the thick of these things. We were thinking about every angle, every potential pitfall, backup cameras, how to film certain workouts for angles to make sure you weren't getting in trouble, all those things. And the rule about having all your videos filmed was always very gray, because yes, they can at any point request you to send them proof for something, but very, very rarely were they doing that unless somebody was reporting you behind your back to HQ, or you have a score that's kind of unbelievable. But for the most part, I believe at this point in the games, they were having you just submit one workout. They would pick one. I don't even want to say at random. You could kind of guess between one or two workouts which they were going to submit. They rarely asked for the long ones, because no one's going to sit there and watch all these long ones when they had so many people qualifying for so many regionals. And so they would look at one, and if that one was maybe a little sketchy and they give you a small penalty, they might ask you for a second one to see if you're just sketchy all the time. But they weren't really verifying much on these athletes. And year after year, me being in the Northeast with my athletes, we had people from the Northeast that were perennial regionals athletes in terms of getting invited there, right? Qualifying in air quotes. And we knew they were complete fucking cheaters. Everyone talked about them being cheaters. Everyone did. And they knew that they could skate around certain workouts that were likely not going to be video reviewed and get in one of those hard spots. And it was tough. Like, I mean, there were a lot of athletes within a couple reps of qualifying in the Northeast. It was a cutthroat region back in the day. We're talking the Tominski, Austin Malleolo, James Hobart, Craig Kinney. Jeez. This is a little before Frazier, but Frazier was coming up through there, and they were just, and I'm forgetting some. There's Spencer Hendel. I mean, there were so many of these just top-notch dudes fighting for very few slots year after year. And so, and even qualifying for regionals, there were a couple hundred guys on a similar playing field as far as fitness went. And you're only getting in some years 40. I think one year was 60, other years, like they just changed the amount they were going to qualify every year. And it was cutthroat. So we hated these guys that would cheat every year and somehow get through. I know people were reporting them and they'd still get through. And then like clockwork, they would show up, they'd get their Reebok gear, they would check in, and then in the first event, they'd be injured. Or they'd pull out before the first event and say, I got sick, I'm not going to compete, I can't do it. Or I've been dealing with a back thing, it's flaring up. Every year they had a fucking excuse why they couldn't go out there and take last place on the floor, because they were cheaters. It was so frustrating. But anyway, I don't even know why I ranted that, because I guess the whole high standards thing and what Pat said about filming every workout. They didn't even check every workout.
Golden is back in 2014. He's through 2 open workouts. What do we know about this guy?
He's a stout athlete, 5'9", 205 pounds.
I mean, this
Rewind
dude's
the clock,
built to
in
be a
the past,
CrossFitter.
he was known as just having a motor, but the strength numbers and technical lifts weren't really that good. But look at these numbers.
Those are great numbers for 2014.
525 dead. He's snatching 240.
Great numbers.
So it seems like a couple of years later, he's made himself a much more well-rounded athlete.
So far through 2 workouts in the Open, he currently sits tied for 6th place in Southern California. It looks like he's well on his way towards making it into the regionals. Now let's assume that he gets there.
All right.
That's all we got to know about that. So they did a special on him, or a quick little piece, like a 2-minute piece, just talking about him coming back and competing. I don't think he ever really made much of it after that year. His highlight, unfortunately, was his controversy, even though he's a pretty solid athlete. Yeah. Halpin says, glad we're having the same thought process around what was announced for in affiliate semifinals and all those videos being public for online judging. I think for years we have been asking for everything to be made public. And I know I have. And when there's not a lot of good reasons for athletes not to put their videos out there for the world to see. You either are embarrassed by some of your range of motion or the quality of your movement. Very few of those athletes, even the higher end ones, are in a real threat of not qualifying for the next level, especially from this year. From open to semifinals is basically what I'm reading, that you get 1% goes to semifinals, and the semifinals will even be online. Not having your open videos posted for the world to see is bullshit. You should have nothing to hide. You should be totally open for criticism. If someone thinks you did something wrong, if you're that good, they should be out there, and they should have always been out there, because it would have been an easy way for us to catch some of these people and I don't want to say ostracize them, but I mean, when you're a cheater in the public point of view, like, how long are you going to stick around? We're not going to put up with it if every time you submit a video, it looks like shit. You're not following standards. You're off with your counts. Like, you're going to hear from the public and you're not going to want to stick around. You're either going to have to make the adjustments and prove that you belong, or we're going to push you out ourselves because we're not going to put up with it. I don't know what this is going to look like. They say, you have to have a level 1 to see the videos. I don't know if you're going to have to pass a judge's course, then go to a specialized judge's course they announced. I don't know if they're going to have a special portal you have to sign into to see these, or if everyone can see them, but only those with the super judge's course gets to vote on them or whatever. I don't know how it's going to work. But I think it's interesting, and I'm definitely not being a naysayer about the season. I think it might work. I know it's going to be a bummer for those who miss out on like the regionals and semifinals days to go to the live events, but hopefully these sanctional type events are enough for both CrossFit to do some kind of media and get us hyped, and then all the other third-party media that have been crushing it can have enough to talk about and cover and put out there to satisfy us. So that's what I'm hoping for. Just reading a comment here. Halpin says, agreed, all online videos should be public. Castro mentioned all videos for qualifying athletes, but haven't seen if that was just to online semis. Good start, even if, yeah. So that is a good start, even if just for semifinals. Yeah. It's going to be interesting. I didn't even do the math on this yet, but I think they said like top 1%. I don't even know what that equates to as far as how many athletes are going to get to semis. Were they like 350,000? If you just take the men's field, if there's 350,000 total signups, maybe about half is men-ish. That's 175. And then outside of the other categories, even though those will need to be reviewed too, 1%, you're looking at, was it 1,700 videos or more? Is my math right on that? At least 1,700 videos will have to be reviewed. So I imagine they'll go back to the way of picking one and watching it on 5x speed, and hopefully seeing this videos either not edited, or if you can pick something out that's egregious in the first round, or maybe they literally look at something and they look at the first round. Does this athlete look like they're moving legitimately? Okay, they are. Speed it up. Are they doing all the rounds they said they did? Oh, they are. Okay, accepted. It's going to have to be something like that. So if I was just talking on the men's side, they have to do, close to 2,000 videos. They do the same on the women's side. Who's going to do that? It's tough to imagine people making it to the games, never having to compete in person. It's weird. It's different, but I don't hate it. It's okay. It's okay. The games can just be an exhibition, kind of like Rogue is this amazing exhibition. It's okay. It doesn't need to be multi-step tournament style, open quarters, live semis games. It doesn't need to be that. We're still going to get the same correct people for the most part, within a few percentage points to semis, and then to the games from semis. You're still going to have the right people. And at the top half of the games athletes, you're still going to have the right people. So it is weird to think that, there's a lot of trust that goes into doing just strictly online and then getting them to the biggest stage. But if they do put their safeguards in place in terms of specific video angles, specific clothing to wear or not to wear, the all black trick, multiple angles of videos, timestamps, passwords, weighing equipment. Oh, for those of you also who, okay, yeah, so I'm pretty close based on Halpin's numbers. So for those of you who have never taken an athlete through the Rogue Invitational Q, the online qualifier, I had the last 2 years where I did it in person. I didn't do it. I coached Jordan Chefs through it in person. And the amount of standards required, I mean, when they send you each workout, they send you a 10-page booklet to go through. We looked through these standards. I mean, we combed through them like crazy. I hope CrossFit takes a page from Rogue's book on this, because they are so thorough. And there were some mistakes in there. Don't get me wrong. There were some typos. They had to make some changes, and not all the language was changed in all the areas, but it wasn't to the point that it was screwed up how the workout was going to play. It was very easy to see how it was going to go. But the standards are super clear. You're weighing all your equipment. I mean, it would take us 30 minutes to set up for these Rogue workouts, because you had to weigh each plate on a digital scale one by one while the athlete's in frame, while the plates stay in frame. Like, there's all these very strict rules. And it's kind of a pain in the ass, but it made it so it was damn near impossible for someone to cheat that. You could not write 20 on a wall ball and Sharpie on a 10-pound wall ball and crush a workout. You would never get away with it. You got to weigh it. I mean, you're weighing your change plates, your clips, you're standing your barbell up on the end and weighing it. Like, there's no way to get an edge by cheating that I could see being possible based on how thorough that was. And so I'd imagine the online semis is going to be like that. And if it is, and if they react appropriately in terms of penalties and adjustments of scores, like Rogue also does. Rogue hammered people for little details, hammered them. If you made a mistake, you got an adjustment. You missed one double under and multiple sets of 50, and there's a 49 in there. They counted, they made the adjustment. So when we're talking about semifinal workouts and how thorough they'll have to be to comb through those and get the right people through, if they do it even close to the degree that Rogue does, we'll be good to go. That's my opinion. We'll be good. James, not even from a judging standpoint, more so just the type of athlete that excels at person competitions. At in-person competitions versus in their own gym with their barbell, their favorite wall ball. Yeah, that's a big advantage, but everybody can sort of, and there are different athletes. I totally agree. There are gamers that show up at live events and they perform so much better than they do on in-gym things. There are athletes who are a little more savvy about how to navigate and set up in their own gym. And you're right, they have their favorite equipment they're super used to. That is different. I do agree. But I still think that those slight edges more so help people get from the open to semis than from semis to the games. And so it shouldn't matter that much. At that point, the athletes that have a shot to get to the games are so experienced in their gyms, or even in another, they could go to another gym and have a similar experience. I think they're so experienced, they shouldn't be affected by not having their favorite barbell or something like that. I would hope. But yeah, it is weird. I agree. Larry Young. For the people that are pro metal weights, I have sets of hundreds, and one was 108 and the other was 105. So my bumpers are way closer. I think, the cheap old metal stuff is you're right, worse than the rubber a lot of times. One of my gyms got it's hard to get equipment in Hawaii, so we do what we can. One of my gyms got a big shipment of plates from China. I don't even know where the person that bought them had found them from, but they're nice. They work well. They're 45-pound bumpers, and boy, are they not 45 pounds. Didn't know until I had to do the Rogue qualifier, but a lot of them are overweight. So some of them are like 45 and a half, close to 46, but I didn't see any under, but they're not 45s. So I thought that was pretty funny. Cool. So I'll wrap up. You guys don't have anything else, but yeah, basically just bringing up the old 2013 CrossFit Open controversy. We'll talk about some other ones that have happened over the years, but I think it's important to go back and explore these things, stuff that's happened in the past that we can learn from, to make sure that as we shift more to online competition, at least this season, and if not the foreseeable future, depending on how this all continues and plays out, we're looking for the safeguards. We're looking to make sure that things are being done right and that there's some integrity maintained in the process of getting athletes to the games. So yeah. And I hope if someone gets caught doing something as egregious as the Josh Golden workout, that I hope the penalties are stiff like they were back then. And I hope some people who need to be made examples of are, and it just kind of solidifies the standards and what we're doing a little better, because it's been real loose. I think in the last few years, I think it's been real loose, other than they obviously cracked the whip on that box step up movement this year. And they kind of, sent some shockwaves through for a few days, as maybe they should have. But I think it could be even more severe than that. If you mess up, you might have to be done. If an athlete gets a major penalty at an affiliate with a CrossFit level 1 judge with 2 layers of judge certs, does HQ ban them and the L1 coach and the gym? Geez, maybe that's what they have to do. Or maybe, you would know better than me. I don't know exactly the rules, but maybe, if you have one of the judges certificates or both, I think there's 2 levels of judges certs now, or will be. Maybe if you get caught not being as good of a judge as you need to be, maybe you get those certificates stripped from you. I mean, I know a lot of L1s that got their L1 because they wanted the experience, didn't follow up on really how to see and correct and understand movements and understand movement faults, and they hold a valid L1, and they probably wouldn't be an acceptable judge. And I know a lot of people who can do this online judges course and get answers texted to them, and they can click through it in 20 minutes. They're not going to be an acceptable judge. So the public posting of videos is going to be important. I think that's the bottom line. James, yeah, also put the athletes in a better position, just have them do step overs. That does make the most sense. However, I will just say valuable lesson there, because there are a lot of movements that require you to take that extra quarter of a second to finish them and prove that you've completed them each and every time. One of them I think should be looked at closer, or maybe not used online anymore, is the handstand push-up. If they wanted to hammer those, you'd see a lot of athletes fall off that don't meet that basic standard of being in that straight line, fully extended hip and leg at the top with the heels only on the wall. You see the butt rubbing, you see the bent knee sometimes, you see the hip breaking when they get fatigued and the butt sagging towards. Like, there are other movements that don't have the luxury of just changing into another variation of them that we're still using. So the step up is it was sort of a good way to say, guys, we're not fucking around anymore. Like, if you mess up, prepare to just, you can cry to social media all you want when you get caught, but you're going to get crushed. Yeah, even that would hurt me. Yeah, I mean, James, you're not alone in the handstand push-up. Like, not everybody, a lot of athletes are lazy about it. They have a way that they do it, and they've got away with it for years, and so they don't clean it up. And so the handstand push-up, if you looked hard at that, there would be a lot of penalties, even on all variations of them, frankly. The muscle-up's another one. I think bar muscle-ups are much better in online competition because there's a more clear finishing position than the ring muscle-up. Again, most people are not truly finishing with locked out arms in a position of control over the center of the rings at the top. Most people are not doing that. They either can't lock it out because they're too fatigued, or they're pushing off backwards and they don't get to extension or control at any point. Maybe their arms are locked out, but they're behind the rings. So just more examples of things that will come up more often with strictly online competitions. All right. I feel like I'm rambling now, guys. Any last thoughts? James, it's also like the year in the NFL that pass interference was reviewable. They slowed it down so much that everything was pass interference. Yes, that's true. So yeah, I won't get into that topic too far, but yeah, you should be able to view the no rep in full speed. If you're slowing it down frame by frame to make judgment calls, I don't think they should be doing that in a sport like this. And yeah, and the NFL, I don't want to say higher stakes, though there are, but I think the NFL is more subjective. So I think that's the easy way to put it. The rules are more subjective and up to interpretation, whereas in CrossFit, with this very little interpretation and there's very little subjectivity. The standards are the standards. You either did extend your hip to the fullest extent or you didn't. You did lock out your knee or you didn't. And that's usually pretty easy to see without going into an actual microscope and arguing what a lockout actually is. But I think that's an easier thing than that example. But I do get your point loud and clear. All right, guys. God, it's good to be back. That was a fun show for me. I hope you guys enjoyed tuning in, and you have inspired me to dig up some more past open controversy, especially with the video review. I'll probably pull up the Josh Bridges deadlift one and the old Brooke Wells handstand push-up debacle. And I'll meet you guys back here next week if you're down. So thanks again, and we'll see you guys later.